Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you're joining me for this video. Thanks once again for clicking on the PenBoyRoy Fountain Pen Review channel. The subject of today's video is the Tibaldi N60 fountain pen. Before I get started, please be reminded to check out my sponsor over at penchalet.com and be sure to use coupon code GOODWORDS at checkout to score yourself an extra discount on your purchases. Check out the description below for more information, including a link to the Pen Chalet website. Every purchase using coupon code GOODWORDS helps remind Ron, the owner over at Pen Chalet, that he's spending good money on sponsoring this channel. Also, don't forget to check out my podcast, the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast, where my co-host Tom, the Odd Oink, and I discuss the fountain pen hobby. Just be forewarned, it's not for children. You have been warned. The Tibaldi brand, although a newer brand to me, is by no stretch of the imagination a new brand. The brand has been around for over 100 years and was established in the year 1916 by a dude named Giuseppe Tibaldi in Italy. Now, it was only a year prior that Italy became involved in the First World War, and although this did, in fact, have somewhat of a positive effect on industry in the area of manufacturing, the same could certainly not be said for the fountain pen industry, which was at the time certainly in its infancy. But in the face of near-failure odds, Tibaldi pressed forward with his pen-making company. He even did so in the face of the possibly crippling fact that tools used to make fountain pens, such as lathes, machine presses, and engravers, were mostly all from Germany. And again, considering the fact that they were at war with Germany, the importing of these tools was impossible. Thankfully, that's where a dude named Giovanni Benelli came in. He was a craftsman and manufacturing expert that was responsible for the successful manufacturing of Tibaldi products for the next 15 years. Combined with the business skills that Tibaldi wielded, they were an unbeatable team. In the year 1935, Tibaldi died. The brand exchanged hands a couple of times until the early 40s, where a Remo Pagluca took over the brand and did so with the help of his wife and son. The brand saw a lot of success under Remo, particularly after the Second World War, due to the increase of office work as well as increased availability of education. Things were going very well for the brand. That is, until the untimely death of Remo's son in the year 1960. Remo had intended for the business to be his son's future, and after the death of his son, lost the motivation to continue running it. In the year 1965, after any and all will to continue, the brand expired. The Tibaldi brand closed its doors. It wasn't until the late 90s that the brand was revived, and although the brand was back in business, it wasn't until it landed in the hands of the Aquila family in 2004 that it began to reestablish itself as a major contender in the fountain pen industry. If you don't know who the Aquila family is, they are the owners of Montegrappa. The pen in question today, the Tibaldi N60, is a very vintage-inspired pen that takes its DNA directly from the 1930s Tibaldi Lusso M60 fountain pen. That's all I have of the background information. Moving on to the neutral zone, those elements about the pen that are either good or bad, or can be good or bad, depending on you. The nib is a stainless steel No. 6 size nib of unknown origin. The brand is only willing to disclose that it was made in Europe. The face of the nib is decorated with the brand name under the breather hole, as well as the logo of a poor bird sliced in half. Under the doomed bird is an F to indicate that this is a fine. The feed is a proprietary ebonite feed. The nib and feed are friction fit into a proprietary unscrewable nib unit housing that screws into the black section. The section tapers slightly towards the nib and has a flare right at the rim. The section threads are a metal thread assembly that also has threads on the inside to hold the included threaded Schmidt converter. The section screws into the acrylic threads of the barrel. The outer threads of the barrel are used in capping. The rest of the barrel is an ever so slightly bulging barrel that tapers at the end to a stepped metal ring. After the stepped ring is the end finial that, as in the vintage Lusso M60 it was designed after, has a slight pointed coned end made of the same acrylic as the rest of the pen. The cap, as in the rest of the pen, is made of the same acrylic. The cap finial is the same design as the end finial with its pointed coned acrylic design, again taking design elements from its vintage predecessor. The clip is a necktie-shaped metal clip that is tension fixed, and again, a design element that existed on the vintage Lusso M60. The design on our N60 clip, although a more subtle and less obvious necktie design, is still identifiable as a necktie and once seen cannot be unseen. The center band is composed of 3 thin metal rings and has the brand name engraved above it. The rear of the cap reads, "Made in Italy." The pen was packaged in this super tight, super orange outer cardboard sleeve. Slide that off and you have another super thick outer cardboard sleeve. It's thick. I'm talking thick, like with enough of these you could build a fort. I'm talking a legit fort. The top of the sleeve has the brand name, and on the side we have the bird logo in its unsliced in half non-mutilated form. Slide off that sleeve and you have an open top box with your pen strapped down on a soft felt bedding. Underneath that bedding is a secret compartment containing a black dime bag with a black and blue ink cartridge, as well as a 24-month warranty card. That's all I have for the neutral zone. Moving on to the good. Those elements about the pen that are good. I love how the pen writes. I don't know who made the nib, but I do know it's not a Jowo nib or a Bock nib. I knew that when I wrote with it, but being that the brand wants to remain tight-lipped about it, I guess I'm just left to wonder. I don't know what the big secret is, but I don't really care, to be honest, simply because it writes very well. The feel when writing is different from a Jowo or Bock nib in that it has its own unique quality of toothiness, yet at the same time is smooth. I know that almost sounds like an oxymoron, but imagine a writing experience that is toothy, but never actually catches or scrapes the paper and only glides when writing. It's not the easiest thing to explain. It has texture to the feel when writing, but is, as I said, smooth at the same time. So, in other words, it's smooth but not slippery. I hope that makes some sense. It's really something you have to experience to really understand. Then there's the ink flow. It's a consistent and reliable ink flow that one can expect from an ebonite feed. It's a touch on the wetter side, but at the same time, I wouldn't call this a gusher. I like the balance of the pen when writing with it unposted. I also wrote with it posted, and although it feels a little bit elongated, I have to say that posting it didn't really change the balance very much at all. I honestly prefer to write unposted, but appreciate that it posts securely and comfortably in the event that I do want to post it. Sometimes I think I like to unpost so I can see the cap while I write. I know, it's weird, but whatever. Now, time for the aesthetics. The way it looks is gorgeous. I love the polish and finish of the acrylic. The material is so well polished and shiny, and at the same time has a depth that makes the material seem thicker and deeper than it actually is. It's unfortunate that this pen is one of those pens that looks way better in person than in pictures, since the current technology, no matter how good, fails miserably at capturing how wonderful the pen looks. Before I received this pen, I saw pictures of it and I said to myself, it doesn't really excite me all that much. But once I had it in hand, I was taken back to when I wasn't impressed and was forced to eat my own words, human centipede style. Yeah, it's that beautiful. When it comes to the vintage design, I can honestly say that it feels like a new pen was made in the year 1930, then time traveled to the future and landed on my desk. When it comes to the build quality, it's lighter than you would expect for a pen of this size, but at the same time feels solid and well built. That's all I have for the good. Moving on to the bad. Let's talk coin. This pen has an MSRP of $295. With retailers here in the US, such as my sponsor Pen Chalet, you can score this pen for a street price of $236. When you consider that it's a steel nib acrylic pen, one could say that it's on the higher side of things when it comes to the price, but for Italian-made pens, it does seem par for the course, if not a touch on the lower side. That's all I have for the bad. Moving on to the ugly. Those elements about the pen that should not be, but are. I honestly got nothing. Maybe if I wanted to poke fun at them, I could say that the brand is responsible for the obliteration of an entire rainforest just for one pen box due to the amount of cardboard used. But regarding the pen, there is nothing in the way of anything ugly that I can think of or find. That's all I have for the ugly. It's high noon. Decision-making time. Should you or should you not pull the trigger on the Tibaldi N60 fountain pen? I know that the price can seem a tad high considering the pedigree of the pen being a steel nib pen. However, it offers a unique writing experience and is a well-made pen. I love the fact that this pen is not just another vehicle for a Jowo nib or a Bock nib, rather a writing experience that is one of its own. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my Jowo nibs and Bock nibs, but I also appreciate when I am treated to a great writing experience that is different and unique, especially when it's delivered in a pen as beautiful and as well made as this one is. I can't imagine anyone owning one of these and having anything bad to say about it. So, pull the trigger on the Tibaldi N60 fountain pen. That was my review of the Tibaldi N60 fountain pen. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. Be well, be safe.